Hello and welcome to the Leadership Chat. I'm Dr. John Banter from the Georgia Southern University Office of Leadership and Community Engagement. I wanted to speak with you briefly before we started our conversation with Congressman Buddy Carter today, as it will take place in a little bit of a different manner. Congressman Carter, who represents Georgia's 1st District in the United States House of Representatives, has been very busy with Congress leading the effort in fighting against COVID-19. As such, we had to provide our questions to Congressman Carter ahead of time so that he could answer them when he had time to do so. We greatly appreciate Congressman Carter having the time and willingness to be able to answer our questions and provide some leadership insights to our students and community at Georgia Southern. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to Congressman Carter, and thank you again.
Let me begin by thanking Georgia Southern University for giving me this opportunity to participate in this exercise. I appreciate it very much, and we'll get right into it with the questions. Tell us a little bit about your background before you were a congressman representing Georgia's 1st District in the United States House of Representatives. Well, I was born and raised in the district. In fact, born and raised in Port Wentworth, went to public schools here in Chatham County in the Savannah area. Went off to Young Harris College, Methodist School, a junior college at that time in North Georgia, and then transferred to the University of Georgia where I got my degree in pharmacy. I worked in pharmacy for someone else for about 8.5 years, then went into business for myself on November the 21st of 1988. I knew I needed to become more involved in my community, so I volunteered to serve on the Planning and Zoning Committee in Pooler and served on that for 4 years, and then ran for City Council, and then 2 years later ran for mayor. Served as mayor of Pooler for 8 years and 4 months, and then resigned to run for the Georgia State House of Representatives, and served there for 5 years, and then resigned to run for the Georgia State Senate. Served there for 5 years, and then resigned to run for the United States House of Representatives. So had quite a bit of experience. It's been truly a great experience, and certainly my business experience, having been in business for over 30 years now, has given me the opportunity to not only serve the public, but also to understand the importance of business practices, particularly in the federal government, and particularly as someone who has signed the front of a paycheck, understand how important it is to try and keep business as much out of the federal government, as much out of business as we can, and that's very important. Would you share with us about your work in D.C.? What committees do you serve on? I serve on the Energy and Commerce Committee. The Energy and Commerce Committee is the oldest and most diverse committee in Congress. We cover everything. We cover everything from energy and any commerce, anything that moves, telecommunications, health, and that's why I really wanted to serve on the Energy and Commerce Committee, not only because it's the committee in Congress, in the House, but also because that's where the Health Subcommittee is, and that's where I serve. Currently, I'm the only pharmacist serving in Congress, so it's very important to have healthcare issues, and using my expertise in healthcare helps me to really serve my constituents and to serve the American citizens as well. So very important. What is your personal best leadership experience? Tell us about a time when your leadership really shined. Well, I will tell you that it's an honor, obviously, to serve in the Georgia House, an honor to serve in the Georgia Senate, an honor to serve as a United States Congressman, but really being mayor was, to me, the greatest honor. As you can imagine, being a mayor of a small city, it was small at that time, it's not small now. When I became mayor of the city of Pooler, our population, when I became mayor in 1996, our population was around 4,500. When I left as mayor in 2004, our population was 19,000. Great time to be mayor. Growing city, great opportunities. We laid the groundwork for what now is one of the booming cities in the state of Georgia. I think it's the second fastest growing city in the state of Georgia. Just a great experience and a great opportunity, and I really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed everything, but I really enjoyed being mayor. What kind of leadership do you think is needed in times of crisis? I think you lead by example, and I think that calming influence and encouraging influence is certainly important. What we're going through now, this pandemic that we are suffering from and experiencing, not the blame of anyone, something that none of us could have expected. It's an invisible enemy that we're facing here. It's very important that we as leaders be reassuring. We are going to get through this, and we are going to to be victorious, and that's very important for us to keep in mind, and very important for us as leaders to make sure that we are projecting that message to the general public, and I take that very seriously and try to do that. How would you describe your personal leadership style? How does your leadership style adapt in general times of crisis? I try to lead by example, and I've been volunteering, I've been at food banks, I've been at shelters, doing grunt work, and that's important, and I think it's important for the general public to see their elected officials out and about. I've tried to keep the citizens as educated and informed. That's very important as well. Disseminating information, making sure they know where they can go to get the help that they need. That's vitally important, and certainly been trying to be encouraging as well, because these are tough times and we need to be there for each other. We're all in this together, and we really do need to be looking out for each other. In your political career, I'm sure there have been moments when not everyone was pleased with the decisions you have made, or where there were disagreements with colleagues on the best path forward. What suggestions do you have for leaders and how they can lead through such situations? You're absolutely correct. There are oftentimes, when you have to make tough decisions. I remember reading a book written by a former president that said that the higher up in government you go, the tougher the decisions get. And he was saying that when he was president, all the easy decisions had been made below him. And every decision he made was a tough decision. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. I know that when I served as mayor, and oftentimes I would be the deciding vote. I only voted if there was a tie. And that means that there was a controversial issue. That was tough. And that's okay. You welcome tough decisions, but you do have to take a stand and stick with it, always keeping in mind that, if you need to change your mind, that's okay too. I mean, you need to make the right decision. That's the most important thing. Don't be afraid to say, I was wrong. And it's often easy to second guess yourself and look back years later and say, man, I wish I'd have done that differently. But at the time, you thought it was the right decision. You stick with it and you go with it until you're proven wrong, and then you move forward. And I think that's the most important thing. People want honesty, and they want truthfulness, and they want you to make the best decisions that you can. And that's what you have to do, always keeping in mind that you are serving the people, and that's very, very important. And I've always tried to do that. We've all had to adjust our lives a bit with social distancing. Tell us about your personal experience with these changes. How did you continue to lead with these changes? Social distancing has been an adjustment for all of us. There's no question about it, particularly for me. And I've been saying this, and I mean this sincerely. I'm from the South, and this is my home. I've been here all my life, intend to be here the rest of my life. I'm a Southern guy, and I like handshakes and I like hugs. And I hope we get back to that. And I think we will, in time, get back to that. And that's very important. Certainly, I understand as a healthcare professional the importance of social distancing. I understand the importance of us following the advice of the coronavirus task force, making sure we're washing our hands, making sure that we're practicing social distancing, making sure we're coughing in our arm, wearing masks. All of those things are extremely important. And we should remember that, especially as we move forward into getting back to normal, getting back to whatever normal is going to be in the future. We need to still adhere to those principles. We need to make sure we're washing our hands, make sure that we're following those rules. Those are not going to change. Those are going to continue on as the future unfolds, and we understand that. It's not going to be the same as it was before. It's going to be different, and it's going to take a while before we get back to a normalcy that all of us are comfortable with. So in the meantime, we just have to adjust the best that we can. But I want to encourage you, listen, this is stressful. It's stressful for me, and I'm sure it's stressful for a lot of people. So just, reach out to somebody and talk to them, and let's look out for each other. If you haven't heard from somebody, check on them, see how they're doing. And, are you feeling okay? How's everything going for you? All that's very important, and I think very incumbent upon us, not necessarily as leaders, but just as friends and just as cohorts, to make sure we're checking on each other. During this current situation with COVID-19, Where have you seen great leadership? I've seen, obviously, traveling throughout the 1st District, and I have been traveling even during the time of sheltering in place. It was important for me to get out and to show leadership and to be there and encourage people and to also volunteer. And what I've seen in the 1st Congressional District is I've seen the 1st District at its best. I've seen America at its best. I've seen people volunteering. I've seen people reaching out to each other, looking out for each other. That is so very important, setting an example for others and helping each other. We are all in this together, and that's what you have to keep in mind, and that's what we all have to make sure that we're practicing. So, there's silver linings to this. We all look for those silver linings, and I think the silver lining that I've seen the most of is just how good the people in the 1st District and how good people all through America are. Our heroes right now are wearing white lab coats. I mean, heroes come and go, but right now, our heroes are wearing white lab coats. They're the doctors, they're the nurses, they're the healthcare professionals, the pharmacists, who are risking their own health to provide healthcare services for others. That is very important. They're doing their job. That's what they were trained to do. That's what their calling is, and that's what they're doing. And I just cannot compliment them enough and give them enough accolades for the work that they've done. Finally, how can citizens of Georgia provide leadership to help our state in the days to come? That's a good question, and it's an easy one to answer. We can set an example of following the guidelines. We know we need to be washing our hands. We know we need to be practicing social distancing. We know that if you got a cold, you need to be wearing a mask. You need to be wearing a mask anyway. We know that we need to be coughing into our arm. Regardless of whether you have tested positive for COVID-19 or not, you still need to be practicing these things. We know what we're supposed to be doing. That's what we should do, and that's the way all citizens can lead through this pandemic. Things are going to get back to normal. It's going to take a while. It may not be the same normal that we are used to before COVID-19, but they will get back to normal. But we've got to always keep in mind that we need to be making sure that we're doing these things, making sure, especially during this interim period, during this period that we're going to be rolling out and starting our economy back up. These are difficult decisions. When should this open? When should that open? But at the same time, if we all do what we're supposed to do, regardless of how rapidly or how slowly we may go back into our economy, we still need to be doing these things, and we understand that. That's the way we can set a great example. That's the way we can all show leadership. Again, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity. I love talking to students. It's my favorite part of this position, and I love this, and I love answering these questions, and I thank you for this opportunity.